so the public understands what is the truth and what is the lie. You know.
So let's get started with the claim that there was no town and country approval for that road. We saw earlier on last year there was an injunction in the court over CEC clearances from the EMA and so on. Well, that has since been lifted. It went ahead. But now we're seeing this claim that there is no town and country approval. What happened there? Was there town and country approval for the road?
Candice, we continue to allow people to present information that judge the PNM in administration differently from others. The PNM built that road from Gardenside to Old Northside Road, no submission to our country planning. The PNM built a road, continued a road from San Fernando to Point 14, no town country application. The reality is that the laws that govern town country planning allows for exemptions, and the road to Point, as is this road, are roads that are exempted.
Can you explain why they are exempted?
I want to read it. I didn't realize you were going to ask this question first, but the law says, and I quote, that Laws of Trinidad and Tobago Town and Country Planning Act, page 13. I'm just going to read part of it. The law says that in this act, except where the context otherwise it requires the expression, development means the carrying out of building, engineering, mining, or other operations in, on, over, or under any land, the making of any material change in the use of any building or other land, or the subdivision of any land, except, this is the exception, that the following operations or use of land shall not be deemed for the purpose of this act to involve the development of land. That is to say, and the part part B, the carrying out of a highway authority of any works required for the maintenance or involvement of a road if the works are carried out on lands within the boundaries of the said road. We applied for CEC, and we indicated to the Environmental Management Agency that the road was a development road of an existing 54 minutes media press conference by Mr. Dennis. In that press conference, we've counted 32 lies that was exposed, that was presented to the public. And while today I can't respond to them all, I'm going to bring to the public enough information so the public understands what is the truth and what is the lie. You know.
So let's get started with the claim that there was no town and country approval for that road. We saw earlier on last year there was an injunction in the court over CEC clearances from the EMA and so on. Well, that has since been lifted. It went ahead. But now we're seeing this claim that there is no town and country approval. What happened there? Was there town and country approval for the road?
Candice, we continue to allow people to present information that judge the PNM administration differently from others. The PNM built that road from Garden Side to Old North Side Road, no submission to our country planning. The PNM built a road, continued a road from San Fernando to Point 14, no town country application. The reality is that the laws that govern town country planning allows for exemptions, and the road to Point, as is this road, are roads that are exempted.
Can you explain why they are exempted?
I want to read it. I didn't realize you were going to ask this question first, but the law says, and I quote, that Laws of Trinidad and Tobago Town and Country Planning Act, page 13, I'm just going to read part of it. The law says that in this act, except where the context otherwise it requires the expression, development means the carrying out of building, engineering, mining, or other operations in, on, over, or under any land, the making of any material change in the use of any building or other land, or the subdivision of any land, except, this is the exception, that the following operations or use of land shall not be deemed for the purpose of this act to involve the development of land. That is to say, and the part part B, the carrying out of a highway authority of any works required for the maintenance or involvement of a road if the works are carried out on lands within the boundaries of the said road. We applied for CEC, and we indicated to the Environmental Management Agency that the road was a development road of an existing road, and under that we were not required to submit it to our country planning. And
what was the result of that? What was the response?
CEC was granted based on that, among other things, of course, and therefore there was no need. We, as a matter of fact, our staff inquired of our country, and we were told that we were not required to submit. And so we have media houses in Trinidad looking for Bacchanal in Tobago. Maybe they have nothing to do in Trinidad, applying for information from town country to create one story when they have all the stories in Trinidad for them to focus on. And we have a minority leader taking that and bringing it to the house to create one perception that a simple development in Tobago must be derailed illegally just by the conversation that this thing is illegal. We had no requirement to submit to town country planning, and we just did not. It was not required. We cannot allow the airport project to be built without any town country approval and then come to the public and make noise for a little road. I mean, we're talking chalk and cheese. We're talking $1 billion+ in a project with no approval, as opposed to $50, $60, $70 million on a road project.
But are you worried at all that perhaps by circumventing these statutory bodies, there might be some bit of development, or it might be good in immediate future, but might have a negative impact in the future, further down the road?
Candice, you're missing the point, and we've been through this. We've been through this, and I've spoken to that already. Statutory authorities, their duty is to work with the state to ensure the best outcome, not to take a position where we're going to stop the state, who are the policymakers, from carrying out a policy decision. That's not the role of the statutory authority. Otherwise, we will get nothing done in any jurisdiction.
Okay. All right. Now, I want to also talk about this issue of the residents that are within the area, and we know the concerns that they've had in terms of, they expected a certain level of consultation before the road was built, but in their opinion, that did not happen. Can you bring us some clarity as to what happened there? How did the division go about handling the people that were occupying that?
We sat back a couple of weeks ago, I think, and heard 54 minutes media press conference by Mr. Dennis.
Good afternoon.
In that press conference, we've counted 32 lies that was exposed, that was presented to the public. And while today I can't respond to them all, I'm going to bring to the public enough information so the public understands what is the truth and what is the lie.
So let's get started.
Good afternoon to members of the media and, of course, our listeners and viewers taking in this press conference, a very important press conference at that. Of course, I am always happy to come to members of the public and bring facts supported by evidence, and most times documentary evidence. And today I simply intend for the next 45 minutes or so to speak to some very alarming developments, not new developments, but the situation keeps escalating day by day simply because we have persons in office governing this island with absolutely no regard for law and order. Some time ago I said that within Tobago and the THA we have a creeping dictatorship. I am sad to say that we now have a walking and running dictatorship on this island. And if I were to give my press conference today a subject, I will simply say St. Anne's meets the THA, because I am convinced that we do in fact have crazy people in office governing us at this point in time. Just recently, I think a couple days ago, the minority leader posed a question, a very straightforward question, to the Secretary of Infrastructure concerning his private jet trip from Martinique all the way to Tobago. His initial response was he was able to pay for that trip through support from a wide network of family and friends. In the interest of transparency, the minority leader asked a follow-up question: who exactly paid for this trip? And if you looked at the last THA plenary sitting, you would have seen the Secretary of Infrastructure, Trevor James, ducking and hiding and refusing to respond to a straightforward question: who paid for your private jet travel from Martinique back to Tobago? To date, we do not have an answer. But that same secretary, 2 days ago, accused me of telling you, the people of Tobago, 32 lies. You saw the video at the beginning of this press conference. 32 lies to you, the people of Tobago. But before I begin to expose some of the facts concerning some very important developments, I want to ask the Secretary of Infrastructure a simple, straightforward question. And the question is this: was your private jet trip some time ago, I can't remember the exact date, financed by any contractor or service provider doing business at this point in time with the Tobago House of Assembly? Let me repeat the question. Question to Mr. Trevor James: was your private jet trip financed or paid for in cash, credit card, or check by any contractor or service provider currently doing business with the Tobago House of Assembly? Simple, straightforward question to the Secretary of Infrastructure, and I hope we can get a straightforward answer. Because you can run Mr. James, but you certainly cannot hide. So it is in your best interest to answer the people of Tobago, because this is a very critical question as it relates to you being in public office and being asked to account for how you traveled from Martinique to Tobago via private jet. And I will say as well that this matter continues to be under investigation by the Civil Aviation Authority. So that is just by the way. But let's get to the real reason why I am here this afternoon. We are here because of some very alarming developments concerning a road project down at Friendship. I have spoken, the minority leader spoke as well, and several other members of the People's National Movement here in Tobago spoke about this project, voicing concerns and expressing some dangerous developments concerning this particular project. And I want to Good afternoon again, members of the media, listeners and viewers across Tobago, Trinidad and Tobago and the wider region. Let me apologize for the endless technical difficulties we are having this evening, and I'm hoping that this is the last time I will have to restart this press conference. Firstly, I want to pose a question to the Secretary of Infrastructure, because at the last plenary sitting, last Thursday, the minority leader asked a very straightforward question. And he asked the Secretary specifically who financed his private jet trip from Martinique to Tobago some time ago. I'm sure all of you remember that famous private jet trip that continues to be under investigation by the Civil Aviation Authority. When the question was posed, we saw the Secretary of Infrastructure, aided and abetted by the presiding officer, ducked and hide and basically refused to answer the question specifically. And therefore, I want to make it a little bit easier for the Secretary of Infrastructure, Mr. Trevor James, by asking a simple yes or no question. And the question is, Mr. Secretary, did any private contractor or service provider currently doing business with the Tobago House of Assembly finance your private jet trip from Martinique to Tobago recently? Let me repeat. Question to Secretary of Infrastructure, Assemblyman Trevor James. Did any private contractor or service provider pay for your trip, whether it was through cash, credit card, or check? Did any private contractor or service provider pay for that trip? Simple question, Mr. James. And in the interest of transparency, we are hoping that you can provide that answer to the people of Tobago and the people of Trinidad and Tobago by extension in the shortest possible time frame. Yes, we know you told us it was a wide network of family and friends, but we are asking specifically who. I also want to respond to the latest developments concerning the Friendship Road project, a project that has been marred in confusion and bacchanal and controversy, a project which has time and time again demonstrated the willingness of this administration, including the Chief Secretary, to abuse the people of Tobago, to break the laws of Trinidad and Tobago. And I want to delve into some of the latest developments concerning this project. And as usual, you will have to bear with me. I will be displaying videos and documents because, as usual, when I come to the public to make assertions or claims, I come with facts and I come with evidence to support the facts. So please bear with me this evening. Once the technology allows, I will be showing you a number of videos and a number of documents so that you can see for yourselves and draw your own conclusions. So the Friendship Road project, I want us to go back to the genesis, the beginning of where it all started. Play the first video, Mr. Director.
Let me also bring to your attention that the executive took a decision that we will have some road infrastructure, some new road infrastructure being put in time for the end of October, in time for the carnival season. And now this is bigger, this is huge, because if it's one thing this administration has been good at, is delivering on some very short timelines. And we're talking about some road infrastructure that will allow for ease of mobility even during the carnival. But these are road infrastructure challenges that we have had for the longest while. Number one, for the longest while since Hochoy Charles, there was a plan to put a road, a bypass, as it were, going from Shervan somewhere around the traffic light there and exiting out on that Strawberry Local Road to facilitate ease of transfer to the airport. That will be done in short order. In fact, I'm advised that letters of award will go out tomorrow, I believe. Letters of award will go out tomorrow, and we're looking at design bill format where the THA will pay back for these roads across a 4-year period. So that road infrastructure from the beginning of Shervan there, all the way down, coming up, busting out to take you straight on the road to the airport, that should be done over the next month and a half.
So over the next month and a half, I want you to remember that phrase, because our lied, dishonest, disingenuous Chief Secretary told us back in September of 2022, and you saw it for yourself, I just had to remind you of that we were due to get 4 new roads, and those roads were going to be done utilizing an emergency procurement exercise, because the roads were needed in time for October Carnival in 2022, and therefore it was deemed an emergency. And the Chief Secretary indicated at that press conference that the Friendship Road that we are now discussing here today was going to be completed over the next month and a half. The Chief Secretary at that time was speaking in September, and therefore a month and a half from September would have been somewhere before the end of October, or just around the end of October, and that road should have been completed by now. But of course, we came to you, the People's National Movement, I as political leader, the minority leader and other speakers came to you, and we told you that that process was riddled with corruption. We told you also that it was impossible for those 4 roads to be completed within 2 months in time for Carnival. And we are now in 2024, and the Friendship Road has not been completed. But of course, in response to our claims, because we made 2 important claims, one is that the process was corrupt, and it was a sole select arrangement where specially selected friends from Trinidad were selected, handpicked, without the requisite experience and expertise to do these projects. And you know what was the Chief Secretary's and the Secretary of Infrastructure's response? Play the next clip, Mr. Director.
Chief, how do you respond to the concerns raised by political leader Dennis, specifically indicating that there has been a commitment on what appears to be identified as an emergency with the target of delivering these roads by Carnival, and he's indicating specifically, based on his review and assessment and seeking his technical guidance, that there is no way these roads would be delivered, 1, and 2, he would have gone as far to post to his Facebook page a letter that would have been issued to one of the contractors where it clearly states that there's 100 that the works are to be completed within 120 calendar days, and this is dated the 7th of September. How do you respond to those concerns?
Well, number one, Mr. Dennis has no technical capabilities as an engineer. So I don't know that he has any expert knowledge on that. Secondly, one of these roads in the contract is phased, meaning that the entire roadway is not expected to be completed by Carnival. One of them is phased. Those that are critical to be completed, the phases, that are critical to be completed by Carnival will be completed by Carnival. So I don't see an issue there.
All right, I just want to go back here to the issue of the contracts. During the PDP campaign, during the election time, you campaigned about a Tobago for Tobagonians. How is it then that Trinidad contractors are getting some of these?
So in response to my very valid concerns back then, the Chief Secretary doubled down on his initial position that yes, the roads will be delivered in time for Carnival, and that I did not have the technical or engineering expertise to speak on those matters. Now, I am no engineer, but I'm also no fool. And therefore, nobody could have convinced me at that time that this administration, especially this incompetent one, was going to be able to deliver those roads within the promised time frame. I don't like to say it, but I'm going to say it today. I told you so. I told you those roads will not be delivered as promised by this administration. But I want to say as well that they knew very well that they could not deliver the roads in time for Carnival. And therefore the intent really was to create the false impression that an emergency existed, and therefore use that self-created emergency to handpick and select the contractors as they so desired. And of course, we made that accusation as well, because I am not in the house like them, so I can't go to the house and hide under any veil of parliamentary protection. Anything I say at any press conference, I can be sued for. And therefore, I don't just come here and make wild accusations. Whatever I say can be supported by facts and oftentimes documentary evidence. So I made the point that they so selected the contractors, they handpicked their selected friends who they had relationships with and who they are currently doing personal business with to bring to Tobago to execute those projects. And when we made that information available to the public, you know what was the response of both the Chief Secretary and the Secretary of Infrastructure? It was some time ago, and therefore I believe most of you have forgotten. And therefore allow me to remind you. Play the other video.
One of the documents may be valid, and the Secretary of Infrastructure will give broader explanation, but I assure you that no one was so selected. And in the case of these contracts, the executive gave the division, and rightfully so, the authority to use its procurement mechanism, to use its project managers, to use its technical expertise to determine what's the fastest way to get these contracts done. And I assure you the division did not use its whole select mechanism to get the contracts done. In fact, I am advised that 40 plus contractors were evaluated. That was then brought down to 7, and out of the 7, 3 were selected. Secondly, one must
let me ask you, sorry.
Right, so that was the response of the Chief Secretary, telling you, the people of Tobago, that Ansel Dennis and Kelvin Morris and them lying, and it was 40 plus contractors. Let's hear the response of the Secretary, Trevor James. Play the next video.
Implemented is one where we have processes we have implemented, is one where we have sat down, the staff at the PMO sat down with a bag of 40 contractors. They developed a logical framework matrix, a modified version of that, with 20 assessments. And out of that, we've selected contractors to which we can ask for selective contracting.
All right.
So again, they doubled down on their response that there was no sole select, but it was a process where 40 contractors were utilized for this particular exercise. And of course, eventually, the minority leader went to the House and asked them, all right, if you're saying it's 40 contractors, show us the process. Provide us with the information. Provide us with the report and tell us who are the 40 contractors that you considered when you were doing the procurement for these so-called emergency roads for Carnival. Could you show the people of Tobago and the people of Trinidad and Tobago and whoever else might be viewing the next document? So the question was simple. In relation to infrastructural roadworks, I hope you're all seeing the document. As announced by the Chief Secretary, can the Secretary explain the following? A, the tendering process utilized to identify the 40 plus contractors, and B, very simple, a list of the 40 plus companies that he indicated participated in the process. Simple question, right, for the Secretary to answer. And here we have the answer on the very same document, and I'll just read the last part of it, part B, in the interest of time. In light of A above, no 40 plus or any other such number of contractors other than 0 could have been identified by the division using tendering and therefore could not participate in such a process. Show the next part of the document. So it went from 40 and go to B, the last part of the page, and you will see the list of the contractors provided by this division that participated in this exercise. So it went from 40 plus to a list of perhaps 6 or 7 contractors. And I will read the names of those contractors. Kai Engineering and Construction Limited. And I want to say as well, in the best interest of transparency, that that company, being the only Tobago company mentioned in this list, responded officially and formally to say that they had no part in no tendering process for that particular project or any of those projects. So Kai Engineering, the only Tobago contractor mentioned there, immediately distanced themselves from the Secretary's response. In other words, they were saying that the Secretary is lying on them. Let's look at the other companies. Innovative Roofing and Contracting Solutions Limited from Trinidad. Construction Services and Supplies Limited from Trinidad. Premier General Services Limited from Trinidad. California Stucco Company Limited. That is the company that is doing the infamous Friendship Project at this time, from Trinidad. Namalco Construction Services Limited from Trinidad. All the contractors from Trinidad. All right? So it went from 40 plus. You could come back to me. So it was no longer 40 plus. When the minority leader was persistent in getting a response, the Secretary could not provide a list of 40 contractors. After he and the Chief Secretary went on record to say to the people of Tobago that we did not so select, we had 40 plus contractors. But the Secretary accused me yesterday or day before yesterday of telling 32 lies. You all will see lies, and not just lies, stupidity and recklessness today. All right? So as time went by, and as people in high office continued to be reckless and continued to be persistent in their endeavor to be corrupt, we had a situation where the EMA had to get involved in this project. Because there you had the Secretary leading a process to build this road in Friendship. And let me just pause to say that when we were in office, we already had a concept for that road that was going to take the route behind the properties that are in dispute today. The road was going to pass behind the guy at Kilgwin. I spoke about that guy at my last press conference, and I may talk a little bit more about his situation later today. It was going to pass behind Apex. I'm sure all of you are familiar with that business place, right on the corner of Storby Local Road and Stumpy Bypass. Behind those properties, behind Rovanels, and all the way down to the new terminal building to give direct access to the new airport terminal building. This administration decided that, look, we're not going to allow the central government to do this road, and the central government was going to spend their money. And before people start saying, well, building roads is the THA responsibility, yes, it is the THA responsibility. But if I am Chief Secretary and the central government is building an airport, and as part of that airport a road is required, and the central government has indicated that they are willing to do that road at a cost of $133 million that will not come from the THA's allocation, then I will accept such an offer. Because that does not take away from my responsibility for roads in Tobago. We will continue to manage the roads in Tobago. We will continue to pave roads and build roads and patch potholes. That doesn't take away from the THA's responsibility. It is simply a special arrangement to treat with a specific once-in-a-lifetime project. So they refuse that arrangement, saying that they're going to find $70 million from within the THA's allocation to build a version. It's not the same project. It's a version of that project, where the road, instead of going all the way to the airport terminal building, they're going to stop the road. The intention is to stop the road right on the corner by Apex. So the road will come directly and join onto this Storby Local Road. That is their intention. But of course, no plans were submitted to the EMA. There were no plans to build this road. Nothing on paper, and I'm saying that without fear of contradiction, because if you're going to build a road, a responsible administration will develop a plan. So you will have all the engineering designs in place. You will have the design for the road in place. You will know exactly where the road is going to pass. And if the road is intended to pass through private property, then of course, if you have sense, and if you have respect for the law and people's rights in this place, then you will ensure that if private land is involved, you will go through a process to either purchase that land from the private individuals or the process of compulsory acquisition. And the airport is a classic example. The government spent several months engaging in a process of compulsory acquisition, and that had to be done and completed before any work began on that particular facility. But you have Big Bajan Trevor James, supported by his puppet Chief Secretary, because I am now convinced that this Chief Secretary is a puppet of that secretary. So he's supporting Trevor James in breaking the law and trampling upon the rights of individuals. So the first case of them being managed by the court, by the High Court of Trinidad and Tobago, was when the EMA got involved to say that, look, this kind of project requires a CEC, a Certificate of Environmental Clearance. But of course, Trevor, being the rogue that he is, decided that they don't need any CEC and that the EMA is a Trinidad entity. People of Tobago, you see this foolishness that we have these people in office attempting to do, playing this game between Trinidad and Tobago and attempting to label even the Parliament of Trinidad and Tobago as the Parliament of Trinidad, and attempting to label all the national entities with responsibility in this country as Trinidad entities, people of Tobago do not support that nonsense. Because now that the court is involved, I expect them very soon to say that the High Court is a Trinidad court and the judge is a Trinidad judge, and therefore no Trinidad judge should tell Tobagonians what to do. That is what they're going to say next. And I'm saying to you, the people of Tobago, do not support that foolishness. The laws are the laws of Trinidad and Tobago. So of course the EMA, being a national entity with responsibility both in Trinidad and Tobago, got involved in this project based on reports from concerned citizens. So they went to the division to ask for a plan for the road. No plan was available. Did you submit a CC? No. And the position of the secretary and perhaps the entire executive council was that we don't need to submit any request for any CC. We could build the road just like that, right? The chief secretary was boasting also about them showing the EMA the error of their ways. Well, guess what? The EMA, as provided for in the laws of Trinidad and Tobago, went to court. And the judge at the time, I think it was Frank C. Prasad, based on his interpretation of the law, agreed that the THA required a certificate of environmental clearance to do that project. And therefore an injunction was granted and the road was stopped. And I will say to you, it is not the first time that a project was being done in Tobago by the THA that required a certificate of environmental clearance. As a matter of fact, even you, if you are undertaking particular private projects, depending on the scope and scale of that project, you as a private citizen must also request a certificate of environmental clearance. Another example is the developments in the tourism sector. When I was chief secretary, we announced a Marriott hotel to be established in that area across in Back Bay. To date, the project has not started. And my information is that they are still going through the requisite requirements to comply with the statutory approvals, especially the environmental requirements. So the law is the law, and every citizen of Trinidad and Tobago, especially those in the government who took an oath of office to uphold the Constitution and the law, must comply with the law. So there are no exemptions, Mr. Trevor James, as you were trying to tell Candice, the reporter from Tobago Updates a couple days ago. There are no exemptions. So eventually, they met with the EMA. Trevor James put his tail between his legs and complied with the law. And of course, they went about doing whatever they had to do to come up with some plan in order to submit to the EMA to get the certificate of environmental clearance. So that was finally granted, and the injunction was lifted, and they were able to restart work on that particular road. But the CEC, as with every CEC, had conditions. Show the people of Tobago the next document, please. Next one, sorry. So here you have the CEC. This is a legit, this is no fake document. This is a legit copy of the exact CEC granted to the Tobago House of Assembly by the Environmental Management Agency. And this was not given to me by any whistleblower. This is in fact a public document. Show me the next part with the provisions, with some of the provisions or some of the requirements or conditions of the CC. And I want to draw your attention to Terms and Conditions 1.1. Very straightforward, very clear. The CC holder, I want to read it for you all, for those who may not be seeing it clearly. The CC holder shall take notice that the issuance of this certificate is not authorization to commence any works related to the project. Works related to the project shall only commence when all approvals, let me say that again, when all approvals from other statutory, regulatory, and relevant agencies are obtained. All means all, right? These include, but are not limited to, the Town and Country Planning Division of the Ministry of Planning and Development. Town and Country Planning, you could take down the document and come back to me. I can tell you that even you as a private citizen attempting to build a 2,000 square foot home for yourself, if your intention is to comply with the law and be able to insure that home from fire and other natural disasters, or be able to be in a position to pursue funding from the bank, then you must go to Town and Country to get approval for the project. And it doesn't take 2 years. I heard Trevor James talking rubbish 2 days ago about the THA, that the THA couldn't wait, and the THA will not wait 3 years to get approvals for Town and Country. It does not take 2 years. Right? I know people to be getting Town and Country approvals for their personal projects in 2 and 3 months. Right? I know that as a fact. And I can tell you, previously, when I was in the Tobago House of Assembly, we complied with the requirements for Town and Country approvals. Right? So here is Trevor James finally getting the CC granted to the THA, granted to the Division of Infrastructure to continue the project. But the CEC, as is always the case, has conditions to be met. And there were several conditions, requirements to consult with the stakeholders and the persons affected, requirements to preserve environmentally sensitive and historical assets, and requirements, of course, to comply with all the laws of Trinidad and Tobago with respect to statutory approvals. But Trevor James, who accused me of telling 32 lies, was there telling Candice on Tobago Updates a couple days ago that they did not require Town and Country approvals, when the very certificate of environmental clearance granted to them by the EMA prescribed that it was required. How more ridiculous, how more bold-faced can anybody in any administration anywhere in the world be to have a document, a certificate of environmental clearance, a legal document in your face stating that you require Town and Country planning approval to pursue the project? And you are saying, you are telling the public in the most bold-faced way that you don't need, because Tobago is suddenly Trevor's Island, so you could do whatever you want in this place. Thank God for the courthouse. There is a place for people who refuse to comply with the laws. There is a place of redress for private citizens and all those who are affected by the ridiculous, malicious, and reckless actions of any citizen, including those in government. And that place is called the courthouse. So, of course, they continued in their most arrogant style, refusing to adhere to the conditions of the CC, trampling on the rights of residents of Tobago. And I spoke in very great detail of a particular gentleman affected by this development. And I will play one of those videos shortly. Right? So the most flagrant breaches of the law continued unabated by this secretary. And I want to pause to warn public servants, because I am a bit confused, right, that an administrator in any division will agree with the kind of nonsense taking place, right? And I am told that this company doing this road for $70 million already got 25% of the money. That is my information. So they have no money to pay people waiting almost a year for heritage. They had no money to pay the young, talented, vibrant Calypsonian who won the Heritage Calypso Monarch for $40,000, but they could sneak down in infrastructure millions of dollars to pay this contractor for this illegal project. And I'm wondering how administrators in divisions are allowing this madness to take place. And I want to caution them, because at the end of the day, the public servant, the administrator, is the accounting officer of the division who must account for how public money is spent. And I find it particularly strange that approval can be given for payments on a project that does not even have the required statutory approvals. But of course, the Chief Secretary, he's not concerned with that. He's not concerned with projects being stopped under his watch for lack of EMA approvals. He's not concerned with the THA being criticized in the courts by judges, saying that the THA is breaking the law. He's not concerned that a very critical road project is going ahead without proper planning. So we're not even sure if the project is going to be safe. He's not concerned with that. You know what was his concern? Play the next video.
The THA is not bullying anyone from the Friendship Road to move themselves without compensation. Absolutely no one. As a matter of fact, I spoke to one resident. I could not find the other because there are two residents there towards the end, and the commitment from the Tobago House of Assembly is that, notwithstanding that the part of the lands might be privately owned, not by them but by someone else, by the folks who own the Kilburn estate where the hotel development is supposed to go, they are the real owners.
However, Mr. Waters showed us documents indicating ownership of the land he has been occupying since 1977. He said, besides word of mouth, the THA gave no written assurance of compensation. Chief Secretary Fali Augustine, questioned further by TV6 News, confirmed he did visit Mr. Waters.
The THA, I went personally, and I gave the commitment that not only will they be moved, but we will facilitate the move insofar as rebuilding them a home commensurate with what they have now, and building it at our expense, meaning the THA expense, not at their expense. So we're not going to move anybody out and not provide somewhere for them to live. And the commitment is also that we will provide up to 6 months of rent.
So he's not concerned with any of the real issues. His concern is going in the man's place to offer him inducements to move so that their illegal road could continue. Right? So we will give you 6 months rent, just move. No idea of where the man going, just move. Right? When that didn't work, the Deputy Chief Secretary called. I was given instruction to provide accommodation for you at any place of your choosing for 6 months if you move tomorrow. When the man started asking pertinent questions, well, where am I moving to? Right? Because at the end of the day, he's not prepared, and rightfully so, to just leave his home on the basis that rent gonna be paid for 6 months. What happens after the rent is paid? And then, of course, the deputy chief secretary said, well, you're squatting. The man said, I am not a squatter. I have legal documents for the property. Well, the deputy chief secretary said, well, I wasn't aware of that, and she will call him back. I'm not sure if she called back yet. Then it was a representative of the contractor offering a Magdalena stay for 6 months. And of course, the chief secretary himself went a second time, twice on 2 occasions, approaching this man directly, harassing him to leave without any due process. In other words, the effect of that is the THA issuing this man a verbal notice to leave his own private premises. And I can tell you, that particular guy, I don't know about Hearn, but that particular guy is no squatter. I saw the documents myself. So they are in people's property, giving them verbal notice, move, we will pay you 6 months rent, we will build a house for you, no formal agreement, no proper procedures followed, and you're not concerned with all the illegality taking place that your secretary is engaging in. And if I was to give today's press conference a subject, the subject will be Sintans meets the THA, because it's mad people. Clearly, there are mad people in office managing or mismanaging this island of Tobago. Right? So, follow me. We're getting to the bottom line. So at my last press conference, I laid it bare before you, the public, all the misgivings, all the mismanagement, all the illegalities concerning this project. And Trevor James's response was to go to the media, and he titled his interview, Debunking the Lies. Right? That was the title of the interview, Debunking the Lies. Play that video for me, that 6-minute video. Bear with me, it's 6 minutes, but I want you to pay attention to everything that this secretary said, because all of it will come back to bite them down the road.
We sat back a couple of weeks ago, I think, and heard 54 minutes media press conference by Mr. Dennis. In that press conference, we've counted 32 lies that was exposed, that was presented to the public. And while today I can't respond to them all, I'm going to bring to the public enough information so the public understands what is the truth and what is the lie. You know.
So let's get started with the claim that there was no town and country approval for that road. We saw earlier on last year there was an injunction in the court over CEC clearances from the EMA and so on. Well, that has since been lifted, it went ahead. But now we're seeing this claim that there is no town and country approval. What happened there? Was there town and country approval for the road?
Candice, we continue to allow people to present information that judge the PNM in administration differently from others. The PNM built that road from Garden Side to Old Northside Road, no submission to our country planning. The PNM built a road, continued a road from San Fernando to Point 14, no town country application. The reality is that the laws that govern town country planning allows for exemptions, and the road to Point, as is this road, are roads that are exempted.
Can you explain why they are exempted?
I want to read it I didn't realize you were going to ask this question first. But the law says, and I quote, that Laws of Trinidad and Tobago Tongue and Country Planning Act, page 13. I'm just going to read part of it. The law says that in this act, except where the context otherwise it requires the expression, development means the carrying out of building, engineering, mining, or other operations in, on, over, or under any land, the making of any material change in the use of any building or other land, or the subdivision of any land, except, this is the exception, that the following operations or use of land shall not be deemed for the purpose of this act to involve the development of land. That is to say, and the part part B, the carrying out of a highway authority of any works required for the maintenance or involvement of a road if the works are carried out on lands within the boundaries of the said road. We applied for CEC, and we indicated to the Environmental Management Agency that the road was a development road of an existing road, and under that we were not required to submit to town and country planning.
And what was the result of that? What was the response?
Pause it. It's difficult to listen to any more of it. So his response was to come to the public, as he normally does, and lie in the most bold-faced way. Accuse the PNM, quite in Trinidad, of building road without tongue and country approval. Accusing the PNM and Tobago, when we were in the THA, of building road without tongue and country approval. And even if that were true, even let's say those allegations were correct, which they are not, didn't they promise to fix this? Didn't they promise to do things differently? So how is it now that you are prepared to use these lies and these false allegations against the previous PNM THA and the current PNM government to justify your foolishness? So based on that, all of us can conclude, if we haven't concluded as yet, that Let We Fix This was a hoax, a big hoax. So he came to the public, lied, claimed that the road they're building is an existing road, lie again. He claimed that the EMA agreed that they didn't need any tongue and country approval, lie again. I just showed you the CC, which has big and bold in black and white that they were to seek all the necessary statutory approvals. So you're accusing me of telling 32 lies. But you are there lying through your teeth as usual. And even while accusing me of lying, the secretary has not refuted anything that I said during that press conference. Nothing was refuted. All right? But time has a way of revealing the truth. And within 24 hours of that accusation, I was vindicated. Show the public the document. Wrong one. Wrong one. The judgment. Did you have that one? All right, load up the judgment. and we'll come back to it. Right? You found it? If you do have it, let me know and I'll send it to you. So, yesterday morning, again, the place to deal with rogue elements, the place to deal with criminals and corrupt crooks is the courthouse. The place that protects people's constitutional rights is the courthouse. So, the citizens who are being affected by the reckless actions of this secretary and others within his executive council decided to seek redress and recourse through the High Court of Trinidad and Tobago. So the secretary could say what he wants. He could say he don't need approval. We could say, based on our understanding of the law, that the approval was required. But it now boils down to what does the court say? And I can say to you that yesterday morning, bright and early, the High Court of Trinidad and Tobago granted an injunction to a private citizen to once again stop work on the Friendship Road project. And this is not something for us to rejoice over, right? This is actually a sad development, because when it was the EMA situation, the same Trevor James, responding to a question from the minority leader, told the people of Tobago that that court matter cost the THA in excess of $1 million. Here we are again having to respond unnecessarily, because had the THA simply followed the law, had they simply flee from arrogance and childish behavior, they would not have been taken to court. And even if they were taken to court, they would not have been caught with their pants down, and they would not have been found wanting when the actions were measured up to the laws of Trinidad and Tobago. So of course, having broken the law, having trampled on the rights of a citizen of this country, the court, not me, the court, the High Court, is now saying to the THA, you are breaking the law and you must stop work on this project until such time that you can comply. And I want to show you, don't take it from me, don't say I say, I am going to show you, and I'm going to read parts of the judgment. Want me to send it again? Yes, my apologies. I neglected to send that to the director. Right. So, I will begin to read, and you could bring up the document whenever you can. And of course, it's a long document, but I will only read the last page, which really stipulates what the court ordered. And this is yesterday morning, right? And this is the second time that the court is instructing the THA to stop work on a project at a significant cost to the taxpayers, because secretaries and the chief secretary, who swore when they took the oath of office to uphold the Constitution and the law, are doing differently today. So let we fix this when from let we do what the hell we want. I promise to uphold the Constitution and the law. They are now saying, to hell with law. To hell with people's rights. Why? Because They are lords and gods in Tobago. I said to you earlier, it is no longer a creeping dictatorship. The dictatorship is now walking and running. And you, the people of Tobago, have a responsibility. Whether you supported them getting into office or not, you have a responsibility to tell Farley and Trevor where to get off. Because it is highly irresponsible of any Tobagonian, whether you are PDP, QTP, or TPP, to support reckless behavior and flagrant abuse of the law and abuse of fellow citizens by people in high office. A wrong thing could never be right. So bring up the judgment. So it is ordered that, and this is the judge or the court writing here, leave be and is hereby granted to the applicant / intended claimant to apply for judicial review to seek the following relief. That is one. Right? A declaration that the decision of the respondent or intended defendant, which of course is the THA, to take possession of, conduct and continue to conduct construction and demolition works on a parcel of land located in the parish of St. Patrick in the island of Tobago known as Friendship Estate without obtaining planning permission pursuant to Section 8 of the Tongue and Country Planning Act, Chapter 3501, is unauthorized and contrary to law, a failure to satisfy or observe conditions or procedures required by law in conflict with the policy of the Tongue and Country Planning Act. 2, a declaration that the decision of the THA to conduct and or continue to conduct construction / demolition works in respect of a 2.5 kilometer flexible pavement single carriageway from Cove Road to Storbay Local Road at Canaan, Tobago, without obtaining planning permission pursuant to Section 8 of the Tongue and Country Planning Act, Chapter 3501, is unauthorized and contrary to law, a failure to satisfy or observe conditions or procedures required by law in conflict with the policy of the Tongue and Country Planning Act. 3, which is the final part of it that I will read. It's circulating on WhatsApp. Read the entire thing for yourself if you so desire. 3, a declaration that the decision of the respondent, which is the THA, to take possession of, conduct and continue to conduct construction / demolition works on a parcel of land located in the parish of St. Patrick in the island of Tobago known as Friendship Estate without obtaining planning permission pursuant to Section 8 of the Tongue and Country Planning Act, Chapter 3501, therefore avoiding the consultation requirement in the circumstances of this case, in breach of the principles of fairness, unreasonable, irregular, and or involves the improper, and in breach of the legitimate expectations of the applicant / intended claimant. And that is the outcome of the hearing of an injunction brought by a private citizen against the Tobago House of Assembly. How further down the precipice can we go in Tobago? Since when do we have a THA? Since when do we have secretaries and so-called leaders that are so bold-faced and so emboldened and so prepared to deliberately breach the laws of Trinidad and Tobago? I can tell you, as for us, or as for me and the People's National Movement, which I lead in Tobago, we will not sit idly by and allow these things to take place without bringing it to the attention of you, the people of Tobago, but we will also bring it to the attention of the relevant authorities. And I want to signal to the people of Tobago that we intend to cause this matter, as with other matters, to be reported to the Integrity Commission. And I want to bring to your attention the particular section of the Integrity in Public Life Act, which applies to every member of public life in Trinidad and Tobago, and that includes Trevor James and Chief Secretary Farley Augustine. Bring up the next document. This, I think, is the final document. You had brought it up before in error. So this is a page from the Integrity in Public Life Act. And this is part of the laws of Trinidad and Tobago. And I want to draw your attention to section 25. Sorry, not 25, but 24.3. And it reads, no person to whom this part applies, and as I said before, it applies to every person in public life, including members of the Tobago House of Assembly and members of this rogue executive council. No person to whom this part applies shall be a party to or shall undertake any project or activity involving the use of public funds in disregard of the financial orders or other regulations applicable to such funds. We are saying the actions of Mr. Trevor James, aided and abetted by Chief Secretary Farley Augustine, are tantamount to not only the deliberate breach of law, but a dereliction of duty, a betrayal of their oath of office, and a betrayal of the trust of the people of Tobago and Trinidad and Tobago by extension. And we will report these matters to the relevant authority, and the chips will fall where they may. Play the last video. I think there's one more video to be played.
I am doing something strange. Earlier today, I spoke with a couple lawyers and I asked them to help me draft a contract, which tonight in your presence, I am going to ask every single one of my candidates, including myself, to sign in the presence of a commissioner of affidavit who will stamp it. And this social contract, which I'm advised does not hold the same weight as other types of contracts, this social contract will be the guiding principle by which every single representative for the PDP must operate. And let me tell you how serious I am. These contracts, one copy will be stored with yours truly, the next Chief Secretary of the Tobago House of Assembly. And as our candidates all hit the street on Sunday coming, they will drop copies by you. And there is a blank line called constituent, which I am inviting you to sign at your pleasure, because I expect you to hold your area representatives to these said very values. And I will tell you as your next Chief Secretary, people breaching this contract will result in them being outside of the Executive Council, because it is about time somebody gets serious with the business of the people of Tobago. The 8 principles are: 1, to use regularly organized town hall meetings and or modern technology to determine the consensus among the views of constituents on any or all matters that affect your lives. 2, to respect and represent the views of all majority and minority views, that is, of all constituents in the electoral district and the island within the government of Tobago. 3, to live in the strictest harmony and closest collaboration and connection with constituents. 4, to maintain continuous and unreserved communication with all constituents. 5, to lead with diligence and honesty, and to have a zero tolerance on corruption, nepotism, and waste.
Stop with that one, zero tolerance on corruption. In case you did not know, that video was your chief secretary speaking about a social contract, his own initiative, which was designed to keep his assemblymen and secretaries in check. Because later in the video, play out the rest of the video, there's another part I want the people of Tobago to be reminded of.
To responsibly use state resources and privileges. We want nobody abusing the privileges of their offices. 7, to give unconditional attention to and fight relentlessly for the community, businesses, family, and individual needs of every constituent. And 8, in all cases, to prefer the interests of one's constituents above one's own and share with all the benefits from being elected. And finally, comrades, I cannot ask my team to sign such a contract, and I not sign one myself. And so I asked earlier on the chairman of the party, Dr. Sean Ned, to affix his signature to my contract. As I hold my team accountable to you, Tobago, Dr. Ned has a responsibility on all of your behalf to hold me accountable to you. And so I wish to, in your presence, sign this contract to tell you that I will be your best chief secretary yet.
Tobago, wake up. Now it's really time to wake up, eh? So, social contract, the chief secretary boasted back then, that was before they got elected, that anybody found in breach of the social contract will find themselves outside of his executive council. And I'm posing this question to the chief secretary and his supporters who continue to enable him. Does the actions of Trevor James constitute a breach of the social contract? I'm not even going to deal with any other secretary, because by now perhaps all of them breached the social contract. But I'm asking specifically, have the recent actions of Trevor James, not even recent, long time ago he's doing stupidness, constituted a breach of the social contract that was put in place by you, Mr. Chief Secretary? That is my question to you. And if yes, as we believe it does, why is Mr. Trevor James still in your executive council? I know why, and I don't need you to answer that. I will tell you why. Number one, you, Mr. Chief Secretary, are complicit in all the foolishness that Mr. James is doing. He's doing it with your support, and you stand to benefit from the illegality, because you can clearly see the intention is to get that road done come hell or high water. And don't be surprised if, notwithstanding the court order, that tomorrow morning that contractor finds himself down in Friendship continuing that road project. Because clearly somebody has to pay some devil somewhere, and the intention is to get that road done by any means necessary, including breaking the law. Right? And the second reason why Mr. Trevor James cannot be put out from the Executive Council is because Satan cannot correct sin. Because the Chief Secretary himself the biggest scandal in the THA audio gate, he was the star of the show. And therefore, the Chief Secretary has no moral authority to correct anybody or to remove anybody from this executive council. And therefore, Tobago, we are between a rock and a hard place. We have a runaway, corrupt, rogue executive council led by our Chief Secretary who cannot take action against anybody in the executive council because his pants down and his business outside as well. So those are the facts. That is the situation before us. I'm laying it before you, the people of Tobago, and you do what you may with the information presented. I told you what we in the PNM intend to do, and therefore you also have to decide. We must not sit and allow these people to destroy our democracy and destroy our island by extension. You all got into office on the mantra, let we fix this. And if I was on a block somewhere, I will tell you all exactly what you all are doing now. But I can't say that live on Facebook. So, I will now pause to take a couple questions, just 2 or so questions, because we had some technical difficulties earlier, and therefore we started late, and I have other engagements. So I'll only take 2 questions from members of the media if you so desire. No questions? All right, well, since I was pellucidly clear and there are no questions to be asked, let me thank all of you for tuning in, and stay tuned, stay alert, pay attention to what is happening in Tobago. Sometimes right under our noses, sometimes in dark rooms and in dark places. Thank you very much. Have a good evening.